All right, so there's been a lot of discussion as to which side is more toxic in Dead by Daylight, whether it be the survivors or the killers. And a lot of people seem to think that killers have the most potential to be toxic in game. And I kind of disagree. I think the door swings both ways. I think both sides can be as equally as toxic as the other. But in most instances, I'm noticing survivors being way more toxic than killers. It might be because I play more killer than survivor, but at the same time, like, the people that are throwing salt my way and talking shit to me are always survivors. It doesn't seem to matter whether I'm playing as survivor or if I'm playing as killer. If a survivor doesn't like the way that I play, no matter what role I'm playing, they seem to have absolutely no problems letting me know that I either suck, I should kill myself, or whatever the case may be. As far as perks go, I even think that survivors have more potential to be toxic because, simply put, they have more perks that allow them to bully the killer. You just got the introduction of Blast Mine and Flashbangs with the Resident Evil chapter. This build that I currently have up right now, I specifically dubbed the bully build because it was a build that I came up with to counter killers bullying me. So the whole premise of it was that, yes, I can bully a killer with it, but I only really used the build if the killer was, like, obviously trying to bully me. I'll go over it real quick. It's not as effective as what it used to be, because obviously D-Strike got nerfed, but it's a build that still works to this day. It's granted, there are things that prevent it from working to its full potential, but if you're getting tunneled off the hook, this build still works to this very day. I've got Quick and Quiet, which I use in synergy with Head-On, typically. If they can't hear me go into the locker, they don't know I'm in the locker, and then if they randomly walk by a locker, I just fucking stun them. I also use that in synergy with D-Strike. If they're tunneling me, I'll just Quick and Quiet right into a locker, jump out, hit them with Head-On, jump back in, and the second they try to pull me out of the locker, I hit them with D-Strike. That's pretty much a go-to that most survivors do, and I don't know if it's necessarily to be toxic, but it's definitely a way to farm points and get some easy stun points, because you get points for stunning the killer twice within the span of about, I don't know, 7 to 10 seconds. And then Deliverance I just used for the simple fact that I never wanted to rely on survivors to unhook me. So if I made a safe unhook and then got downed and hooked, I could just unhook myself. This kind of is counterintuitive with Decisive Strike, because if I get tunneled off the hook with Deliverance and somehow get downed, then my broken status is an automatic timer for D-Strike. So a smart killer would know not to pick me up until my broken status disappears, so that they won't get hit with D-Strike. If they did, then that's on them. But this is a bully build, and I actually made a montage of it and how it was working for me, and I was literally an absolute terror. I was a tough time for killers, and I have a montage proving it. Not all of it was toxic, but there were a couple killers in that montage that I gave a really hard time, and it was fun making the montage, but at the end of the day, I mean, you could probably consider it toxic to some extent. Now, like, this bully build that I have right now, or anti-bullying build, whatever you would like to consider it, this is child's play compared to what you could do to a killer. With flashbangs and blast mines and all that stuff, I could easily throw on switch out Deliverance for Blast Mine and Decisive Strike for Flashbang, and I would now have 3 perks that would allow me to either stun, get easy unhooks, or get easy saves while a killer's carrying a survivor. Just easy gen stuns. If you have 2 people with Blast Mine, you could have one person equip Blast Mine on a gen, and I've already seen this, so I know it's a thing. If the killer walks up and hits that gen, tries kicking that gen with Blast Mine active, they then get stunned and blind, and then another survivor can run up with another Blast Mine and equip it back on, and the killer isn't the wiser because they're blind and stunned, and I don't even think they can. I think they have audio interference, so they can't actually hear. And then just equip Blast Mine back on, and there's a double blind, double stun. So, yeah. You honestly can't tell me that survivors don't have as much or more potential to be toxic than killers. It's a silly argument. There's probably more perks in the 6 pages that I could probably come up with that would also help substantiate that claim. There's only 2 perks for killer that I can think of off the top of my head that I would consider toxic, and that's Insidious and Noed. And Noed is even to a lesser extent, but like Insidious is definitely a toxic perk in my opinion. I can't think of any other perks, and that's just 2 perks that I can think of that would be toxic. In the argument of kits, sure, there are killers that you could use to be toxic, but how often do you see those killers? I mean, I had a situation with Insidious Bubba today where I got him 2 games in a row, but of the 2 games that I played against him, I won 1 and lost 1. So really, it was the killer being that toxic if I managed to beat him once and lost once? It's a 50-50. So at the end of and the 1 game that I lost, I already knew he was Insidious camping. So I did the best I could to counter it, but I mean, at the end of the day, he stopped camping and started moving and patrolling gens. So, which brings me to my other point. I feel like survivors just whine and bitch and complain way too much. I literally just played this game this morning for maybe 2 hours, and I got 3 adept trophies. And that's 3 adept trophies. I played 4 games, so 2 out of the 3 adept trophies I got in the first take, and then the other adept trophy I got in the second take. Those are going to be uploaded shortly. I'll probably do 1 a day, but all these, I had a survivor throw salt at me probably like, 2 or 3 days ago now at this point, and they were talking so much shit, and I always like to see the type of person that I'm dealing with, so I actually went in and I looked at their trophies. They did not have a single adept perk, or adept trophy for survivor, and all they play is survivor. I didn't see a single trophy for killer. All they do is play survivor, and they didn't have a single adept perk, adept trophy for survivor. It didn't matter what chapter it was, whether it was a core game, a DLC, or what have you. They had absolutely 0 adept trophies. I have now, currently, I have every single adept trophy for all the survivors that I have. So there's only 3 survivors I don't have, which is the Silent Hill and Resident Evil chapters. So these are the only 3 that I don't have adepts for right now. So every single survivor you see right now, I have adept for. I can't say the same for killer. I don't have adept nurse or adept blight. And I don't believe I have adept trickster. I don't even think I tried adept trickster yet. But at the end of the day, survivor is so easy that I don't understand why a survivor would even be messaging a killer throwing salt. especially when, for me, when I'm playing against survivors, I'm basically playing in reaction to the way that they're playing. If they're going to be overly altruistic, I'm probably going to proxy camp hooks. If they're being toxic, like the game that I got salt thrown at, if they're going to like literally completely sabo my hooks to the point where I can't make an unhook, and they're doubling up on offerings that make the hooks far enough away that I can't actually get a hook when they're saboing, like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna play like a dick, because at the same time you're playing like a dick. And for someone, for one of the solos to throw salt at me because of that and not realize what was going on is just stupid. Especially when I went on to explain to them what was happening, and their excuse was, well, they're not being toxic, they're just using tools and perks the way that they should be. But you're gonna bitch and complain to me about tunneling when that's a perfectly viable strategy as killer. Like, if you guys are gonna play like dicks, then I have every right and reason to play like a dick as well. So in that game, I don't even consider what I did toxic, because the person in question I only tunneled once. They ended up in 4 different chases with me. Of the 3 chases they lost, 2 of them they were at full health, and 1 of them I tunneled. So I don't even know what that person was bitching and complaining about. And for them to go out of their way to message me and basically talk shit is kind of stupid. But yeah, these next couple uploads coming up are going to basically try and help demonstrate how easy it is to play Survivor. And then I might pick up the DLCs here soon and specifically get Blast Mine and Flashbang unlocked and try and do I guess a toxic build for Survivor, and we'll be doing it with Meg because Meg's my only Prestige 3 level 50. So yeah, we'll maybe do that. I don't know if I really want to waste the money, especially with the game as broken as what it is right now. That's just something I need to mull over. But yeah, I honestly think that survivors have way more potential to be toxic than killers. I think the only outlier would be Leatherface, really. I mean, he's the only one that is capable of camping, and even then they added the rev meter for him, so he can't. It's not like he can sit there and constantly rev his chainsaw. So even then, that's a bit of a moot point too. Like, he's not even as campy as what he used to be. And he used to be really campy because I mained Bubba back in the day. So just throwing my 2 cents out there. There's other rants that I want to do, but I feel like this one's the more important rant. The other one is more boycott bullshit, which I might cover someday or not. We'll see. That has to do with more hypocrisy too, so we'll get into that some other time, I think.